Hello and welcome, brother friends. This is WrestleWolf. I'm Dr. Damian Gibson, and joining me, as always, is the man who only deals in kayfabe and everything else. It's Sir Matthew Kayfabe.
Oh God. Anyway, kayfabe is very important for obscure reasons, depending on how you define kayfabe. I define basically all things involving wrestling to be kayfabe. Like I count Meltzer as kayfabe.
Well, he does make a lot of things up.
Well, that's true, but also like he gets worked by companies.
100%.
He's running basic storylines for people.
He's like a confused man in like a French farce. Like the guy who's sort of watching the Lothario run around to like 6 or 7 different women, and they cut to Dave Meltzer every now and then smoking a cigarette, going, That's his role. That's his role in wrestling.
Oh, poor Dave.
Nothing like quoting 60s French fast cinema to really get wrestling fans on board in the first minute and a half of a new format.
I'm just happy we're back on brand.
Who us talking about wrestling or French? Oh, talking about anything but wrestling.
Yes,
to make us sound like the biggest wankers on the face of the planet.
That's exactly right. That's what I was
that's us.
Hello.
Hey, so should we explain let's quickly explain the format change, just in case there's anyone that's like, what, this was meant to be Dynamite or whatever. So we've decided that rather than try and cover every show that happens each week, and then like break things down match by match, which I don't know if that's our strength anyway. I mean, I actually think you're better at it than I am. But anyway, it wasn't a huge amount of fun for us, and we had a conversation where we're like, let's just do a show where we just talk about wrestling. We just talk about whatever we've watched during the week. The vast majority of that is going to be Dynamite because the two of us are massive AEW marks. So
it's also really the only wrestling I watch is Dynamite.
Yeah, so. I was just about to say that you don't watch any real WWE, and you just don't have the time. You have a proper life with a job and wife and children.
No. I just have too much self-respect.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. Yeah, there's a couple of things that I can bring up, like NWA Powerrr that I've just stopped. I've just stopped watching. I actually cancelled my subscription yesterday. It was a sad day.
Wow, this is a day I never thought would happen. Nick Aldis hasn't been able to keep you despite his enormous amounts of charisma and, excitement.
If there was anyone else on that roster for Nick Aldis to wrestle, then yeah, I would.
It's not Damian Sandow.
Yeah, but they're not even using him. They've got him in some weird tag team story with like Sal Ranallo and Tim Storm. I mean, it's just it's almost like the pandemic hit and then Billy Corgan just forgot that he owned NWA, and it feels like the bare amount of money and thought has been put into it. And just as a fan, and I'm not working full time at the moment, so I do need to be relatively sensible about my spending decisions. And 2 weeks ago, NWA didn't even give me an episode. You know what I mean? So it just like that stuck in my craw for 2 weeks, and then the last 2 shows have been really I know I can be a dick about things and not let things go, but that really annoyed me. And then like the last 2 shows have been essentially the same show. And it's all centered around Nick Aldis, which is fine. He's the top guy. But the commentary, man, like now that's behind a paywall, I can't even show people. But it's truly bad. It's really, really bad. I mean, people bitch and moan about Raw, and they should, because it's not as good as it should be. But if you're an NWA Powerrr fan, and why wouldn't you be after the first season, and then you were served up this, and you had to pay for it, it's really not good enough. It's just fucking awful. And I feel bad that I'm not supporting him, but
I think I've previously argued this, but I would argue that you're the fool, because this is classic Billy Corgan, where he does something and you're like, oh yeah, this is interesting. Then it starts to get really good, and you're like, oh shit, this is so good. Then he takes a bizarre left turn, and you're like, like this, yeah, okay, like I can be on board for this. And then things get real bad for about 17 years.
Yeah.
You've hit the future embrace, and things are only going to get weirder from here.
If I start seeing some, like, I don't know, if they signed Warhorse or something, then maybe I might go back to it. But
so what you're saying is, if they signed your favorite wrestler, you would go back to it.
Well, yeah, obviously, but dude, it's so bad. It really is. It is. It's hard to watch. Bad. It's not even like, and we're wrestling fans, man. Like, we'll watch pretty much anything. You know what I mean? Like, if you're comparing wrestling to well-written television dramas, I can't think of one off the top of my head. Like Bosch on Amazon Prime or something like that. Like, I could in the amount of time that I watch wrestling each week, I could have already finished 6 seasons of Bosch and been like, well, that was really well-written detective noir television that I really enjoyed. But I tried to support NWA. Anyway, I don't want to bang on about this too long, but I just, it's sad more than anything because it was really good and they're doing something different. Like, they do have that studio wrestling thing that no one else is doing. But it just, anyway, there's a part of me that's like, maybe I'm being a bit harsh because of the pandemic and everything, but I couldn't watch it, man. I was starting to get to the point where it was like, it's a chore to watch this TV show, and no TV show should be a chore to watch.
As I've always argued, I believe that NWA is essentially poorly scripted. It's like a poorly scripted wrestling TV show. Rather than a wrestling show, if you get my distinction, mean, yeah. Like it's a,
yeah, I see what you mean.
I just think like they're playing 80s wrestlers. They're not, it's not real. Also, not
but
that
when they, sorry, you go, man.
No, you go.
I 100% agree with you, but that is what they're doing. When they had people who were charismatic enough to make that, when Nick Aldis was surrounded by people like Ricky Starks, Eddie Kingston, I literally cannot remember his NWA name, but LA Knight, oh my God, Eli Drake.
I'm shocked they don't have Thunder Rosa's still signed to NWA, isn't
but she? She's like, her segments are so bad, man, and they've got no one. They've got no one for her to wrestle except for Camille.
Yeah, you'd think they might just borrow some AEW Junior. Get the Gun Club on there. Come on.
Oh God.
Where are Billy Gunn's doofus children?
Yeah, they look like Billy Gunn's kids look like something out of an Adam Sandler movie.
Billy Gunn's kids look like someone who beat me up. Like, that's like I feel physically threatened. And I imagine a lot of wrestling fans feel like these people don't like me because I like wrestling.
Yeah. Well, yeah, from the Jim Ross school of how to alienate people. What are you, some kind of mark, you fucking piece of shit?
You fan.
You fucking fan. I suppose you sit there and watch wrestling, don't you fucking moron?
That's how I know your name, Austin Gunn.
Hey, I know you've got a bunch of things that you want to get to, but this is genuine, like, breaking news. So if I actually edit this in a quick turnaround time, we might be on top of something before everyone else. Andrade... You might. Now you're going to turn around and go, yeah, man, that happened yesterday. I've known that for ages. Andrade has challenged Kenny Omega at Triple Mania. So, one, you were right and I was wrong. Andrade's going to AAA. Two, he cut, with my very limited Spanish, it looked like he cut a really cool promo. I have the whole promo here if you want me to go through it, but I don't know if it'll make very good podcasting. He essentially just says, hey, I'm Andrade. Psycho had already challenged Andrade, and he addresses that saying, I do want to wrestle you, but I've got to take care of business first, which is getting a Mexican belt off a Canadian wrestler. So, of course, it wouldn't be AAA with a little bit of El Gringo racism happening.
When is
but
when
that's
is
fair enough.
Triple Mania?
That is a good question, my man. I don't know.
Because if it's coming up soon, I don't think Kenny Omega is going to lose any of those titles he's holding until he's lost the AEW one. Like, surely that's part of the. They're not going to let him drop these titles.
No, which makes so. Here's my theory. This will make Andrade chase him to AEW.
I hope it doesn't. I hope it takes him. Like I do. Okay, I would really love it if Andrade came on and had a match and said, I'm going to kick your ass at Triple Mania and wasn't a permanent AEW character just yet. And then, went to AAA, went to New Japan, that kind of stuff, and built himself up a little bit. But I feel like we need to do a little bit more building and a little bit less signing random people for a little while. As good as Andrade is. But
this way, he's not signed to AEW. He's the biggest guy. I mean, he's going to be the biggest guy for an American, Australian, for a white audience or a non-Mexican audience. He's going to be the biggest star on their roster. So this is a way to get him on AEW television, but he doesn't necessarily have to be signed to AEW.
Yeah. Well, yes.
And I'm not saying straight away either.
Week.
Sorry, dude, I completely talked over the top of you then. What did you say?
Oh, that's all right. I just don't want to see him every week quite yet.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, but I think that's this is a way for that to not happen. You can have the that's a pay-per-view that I'll somehow try and get my hands on.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
last year they put it on YouTube. I think,
wow!
After the fact, I'm pretty sure I'm correct there. But yeah, and then he can because obviously there's already another angle here with Psycho, which is a great name for a wrestler, by the way. Psycho. It sounds like an Australian would come up with that name for a wrestler.
We have a rock star in Australia, a sort of mid-level rock star whose name's Angry Anderson, and it's always really humoured me that he was like, it's like, what's your dominant emotion? Anger. It's like, okay, well, we'll call you angry. We'll call you angry, and then you can have release songs like Bad Boy for Love.
Oh God, I hate that kind of pure bogan rock that exists in Australia. I just can't. I'm not.
It's like Motley Crue without the glamour. I would describe Rose Tattoo as.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe the American version might be like a ZZ Top or something.
Yeah, that's a very fair call. Yeah,
it's real bogan. It's what people in the deep north here in Australia would listen to. If you went to Cairns or Townsville, you'd hear a lot of Rose Tattoo.
We don't have any listeners there, do we?
Probably, but anyway, I didn't have a go. I'm just saying that's what you would hear.
Just that they have terrible
just like if you're in
music.
Sydney, you would see rugby league on the TV. That's just the way things are.
That's true. Do you want to? I've got other Andrade news, which is not breaking.
Yeah, cool. Go
so
for it,
his first match outside of WWE has been announced, and it's for a Texas promotion, and it's against Alberto Del Rio.
Oh God.
What do you think of this? Is this a dream match for you, or is this how is Alberto Del Rio still wrestling when everyone else is cancelled?
Yeah. Even Velveteen Dream isn't wrestling, and he works for Vince. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. When we spoke about this the other day, and you were like, "Isn't Alberto in jail?"
Yeah,
which I thought the same thing. There was a whole bunch of bad shit that, really bad stuff that happened. And then I was just like, "Oh, we'll never hear from him ever again."
Didn't you find out that his trial is actually before this match?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, so
he'll be. So yeah. I'm almost 100% sure that build poster will have the words "card subject to change."
It's very 90s wrestling, actually.
It really is. It's old school.
So let's move on from that.
As long as my trial goes okay, I'll be main eventing Texas Mania on the 30th of. on the 30th of May. Be there. Unless I get put in jail, then don't worry about it.
You'd think if you were Andrade and your goal was to build yourself up to be, a world traveling wrestling superstar, you might start with maybe a slightly different opponent. Because I don't first of all, no one wanted to see Alberto Del Rio when he was the biggest he's ever been. He was awful.
No.
It was the worst.
It's the worst era. And look, man, there's a lot of bad WWE eras, but my least favorite era is the non-booking of CM Punk whilst putting the fucking belt on an Alberto Del Rio. I just could they're all sort of like, that's around the same time as the Anonymous General Manager and Seb Coulter and Jack Swagger. It's like, oh god, fucking truly awful. But yeah, I really disliked Alberto Del Rio then, just as a character.
Yes.
And now I'm not a huge fan of him as a dude.
No. Well, we got some other stuff outside the ring. We got Daniel Bryan, who's been your friend, who's been talking about how he would like to keep working for WWE while also wrestling in other promotions, including New Japan. He specifically singled out New Japan. Would this be exciting for you if Daniel Bryan, WWE superstar, like he's just been banished off SmackDown, if they were like, hey, he's going to be at Wrestle Kingdom against Jay White?
I mean, yes, of course, because anything Daniel does, I'm going to be into. But also, Manic Pixie Dream Wrestler, is that anything? Is that Daniel Bryan? Is that maybe AJ Lee is probably a better, but I don't want to, get into gender politics and get my ass handed to me. I'm going to keep it on Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
Manic Pixie Dream Wrestler. I just want Daniel to leave WWE. I just want him to, genuinely, he's done everything he can do in WWE. I mean, there isn't really, maybe one more WrestleMania headliner in front of a crowd, but Vince doesn't have any real interest in putting belts on him. And the future seems to be Roman, and so, and that's fine. I know, especially me, like you tease me about this all the time, that I want AEW to sign everyone, but if Daniel Bryan was the kind, if he was to leave WWE and could go anywhere, could do, have a Jon Moxley type contract, that's the best scenario, because I can only imagine what the caveats would be. It would have to be a pretty special contract for Daniel to be able to just waltz in and out of WWE all the time. I mean, they still refuse to talk about New Japan when they talk about AJ Styles.
But maybe this is the break. Maybe this is Daniel Bryan is a star of such, extreme proportion that if this is what he wants to do, they're just going to have to suck it up and let him do it.
It makes absolute business sense to send one of your best, probably your best in-ring wrestler and maybe everyone's favorite wrestler, WWE wrestler, to go around and wrestle in other promotions. It makes absolute sense. But we're not talking about a sensible man who runs the company here. We're talking about Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who one of his overriding traits is his sense of competitiveness with every other promotion on the face of the planet. If it's someone else who's being allowed to make these decisions, like a Hunter, maybe. But Vince is still very much in control of that promotion. So I don't see that happening. I think it's more likely of Daniel leaving WWE and then doing all of that. I don't know. Is that Dave Meltzer that's reporting that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, sources are.
I mean, this was
good.
something that Bryan actually said on Barstool Sports. So it's something he straight up said.
That was the thing when we was talking about Kenny Omega, right?
Yes.
And then Kenny Omega retweeted it and was like, he gets it.
Well,
it's just great heel work.
There's a good pivot here to another bit of outside the ring news. So WWE are in talks with MLW about working together, and Dave notes that this could be similar to the 90s ECW deal that WWE and ECW had for a while.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but it just I'm so anti WWE. Whenever I hear any of these stories, it's like, oh, they're just going to take all their talent. and say it's a working relationship, but anyone who's half decent at MLW will just be stolen and put on NXT. And instead of saying, maybe they'll mention MLW,
But
let's say it was Seth Rollins, like a young Seth Rollins.
But like ECW rocked up on Raw and invaded, and like they built sort of a bit of it was quite a good storyline. They ended up with Jerry Lawler rocking up at the ECW arena. WWE have so many guys that are signed that are not doing anything. Maybe it's a pretty good opportunity to send some guys down as well. You do have interesting people. Like I'm having a look at the MLW roster page now, and you've got Jacob Fatu, who's their world champion, who I've heard of. You've got the Von Erich brothers that are there. LA Park is there. Loki's there. Leo Rush, who's great, who I can't imagine is going to be appearing on WWE TV anytime soon.
No.
Davari's there. ACH, once again, obviously left under very, very unpleasant circumstances. TJP, Simon Gotch is there. There's some interesting...
Simon Gotch, wow.
Yeah, there's some interesting people there. Brian Pillman Jr. is there, but I imagine that's not right. But
if he's not 100% signed to AEW, I will lose my fucking shit. If we're getting the Gun Club on weekly television and Brian Pillman doesn't have a proper contract, Tony, I'm going to be very upset.
Yes, that is very fair. But I agree. It's not big news because it's not. Dave even notes that this could just fall apart. And
there is a lot of there's a lot of reports coming out of WWE in the last couple of weeks of them maybe being open to doing business with other companies, which it's coming from a lot of different sources, right? So there must be something to it. But I just don't see Vince. I don't see it happening with Vince at the helm. I just don't. Because he will be like, I built this company on doing the opposite. I just don't see him changing his mind on that. You know what I mean? It's like, I did the complete opposite of that for 40 years and I've earned billions of dollars from doing it. So, but supposedly he is handing the business side of things over more and more to other people. So maybe, maybe they're seeing what AEW are doing, with New Japan and Impact and everything and just not wanting to be left behind. That's the other thing with WWE. They do tend to sort of jump on any other trends that come along. So,
and we got two other quick little things. The first is that I don't think we need to talk about this one too much, but Chelsea Green has talked about how she wants to either land in AEW or Impact. I hope it's AEW.
Yeah, either way, she'll be great on either show. The only thing I would say for her personally is we're still not getting enough of the women's division on Dynamite. There's a lot on the other shows, but I still don't count them as proper shows. So she would probably get more oxygen on Impact, just for her personally. But I agree with you. True. She would be great on AEW.
The other one is that Mark Henry's reportedly dropped 80 pounds in anticipation of a return. Is this something?
I keep hearing about this.
This is 49-year-old Mark Henry. This is a real. I don't want him to show up on AEW.
No.
I loved that last little run. WWE made a terrible mistake not putting the title on Mark Henry when he wore that salmon jacket and retired and then whacked John Cena. Promo. That was they should have given him the title then, even just for a month and just really, really played it up. But I don't think we need to see Mark Henry versus Kenny Omega or something.
No, absolutely not. And it's Christian was the end, right? That, I think for both of us and probably everyone else watching AEW, when Christian wasn't CM Punk and everyone got over their little sulk, I'm probably more talking about myself than anyone else right now. me personally, I was like, all right, cool. You get Christian, Tony, but no more. I don't want to see. You guys are meant to be the opposite of WWE. I don't want to see and Mark Henry would be the absolute perfect example of what we're talking about. Of a guy who hasn't been wrestling for 10 years, wasn't even that great when he was wrestling. Does anyone have any real interest in seeing Mark Henry return to the ring? No. And then he would just be clogging up a spot. You got to put him on TV because he's Mark Henry. When no one wants that. Yuck.
Well, that's it for us outside. Do you want to talk about Dynamite?
Yeah, I just thought before we do, did you see any of Rebellion at all?
Yes.
The Impact pay-per-view?
I did.
What did you think?
Thought it was really good. I thought it was top to bottom a really good show. I think they did. It was great that they didn't do a screwy finish, which is sort of how I thought they were going to get out of it. Kenny Omega as Impact champion is great for them. This is indie John Cena as your champion. You take it if you get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And, at some point, someone on the Impact roster is going to beat Kenny Omega for the world title, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, definitely. I thought Rich Swann did really, really well in this match. I thought obviously I did a 30-minute solo review, so I won't bang on about it too much, but I just thought this could be the making of Rich Swann as a world star,
I think that Rich Swann and I think Moose are probably not long for Impact in some, they're probably too talented to be in that junior league for forever. But I agree. I think it was a bit of a star maker for Rich Swann.
Yeah, and wherever he goes, including Connecticut, he needs to keep that theme.
Oh, it's so good.
Good. Rich Swann can't walk out to any other theme ever for the rest of his life.
Hard agree.
Even in AEW land, where Tony will buy whatever song you want, you have to keep that generic Prince Parliament theme.
I can't believe that this is right. AEW can buy whatever song they want. They've got the Pixies there. It's ludicrous. And for some reason, Christian's gone with his TNA theme, which is not a very good theme, first of all. No one is actually ooh, that's his TNA theme. And it just Christian had some of the best theme songs in WWE.
Yeah. The original Christian, the first heel run, Christian.
Oh, it's
Christian.
so good. Good.
That's got to be in the top 5 WWE themes of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good. I'm going to listen to that. As soon as we stop recording, that's what I'm listening to for the next half an hour.
And he had a story of the year song. He had an actual band song.
Oh, did he?
I think so. I think they're a real band, aren't they?
That particular theme that we're talking about?
No, just the later one.
Ah, right.
Which was also a good one.
Hey, just quickly before Dynamite chat, it's been reported again yesterday. This is via Wrestle Talk that Cultaholic. Sorry, my bad, Cultaholic. That Tessa Blanchard is very, very close.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't put
AEW.
this. I sent this to you, but I didn't put it in on my list.
Yeah,
I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen Tessa do anything, so I don't really have any opinion of her besides the fact that you love her, which is always a pretty good sign that they're going to be terrible. No, I'm joking. That they're going to be an amazing wrestler. Whenever you're all in on someone, it's usually I usually 100% agree. So yeah, and I want to see more of the women's division on. I just want to see more of the women's division on AEW. I don't understand what has to be done. Chris Statlander is a fucking star. Put her on TV all the time. Have her on Dynamite for 2 hours every week. Britt Baker. Anyway, hopefully Tessa Blanchard will help elevate that women's division even more,
Mm.
where we can get maybe 2 women's matches on a Dynamite. Would that be too much to ask?
That's too much to ask.
How about this? No Gun Club and a women's match takes its place. Any females on the roster. Any. I'll take any you've got. Red Velvet versus I don't know, the Librarian. I'll take that 1,000 times over anything to do with the Gun Club.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have to stick with the Gun Club. Sorry, mate.
Do you want to talk about that whole bit, Cody's return?
No, I got very little to say about it, other than why. Like, was it a mistake was it a production error that we could all see Cody standing in the bus?
Just looked like a guy didn't know how to get off the bus.
Like, if Cody had have popped out of nowhere, it would have been amazing. But it took QT Marshall about 6 minutes to get the bus open, and it's like, mate, I think Cody Rhodes is there. Look at the window.
I had such an emotional roller coaster during this whole segment, like the match in the segment, because when the factory came out, I was like, oh God, I think I'm slowly turning towards this faction. Like, I think they're okay. Like, as a mid-card faction. If it's just to get the young guys in the faction over, then I'm okay with it. And then fucking Billy Gunn came out, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, no, I'm not into this. This shouldn't be on TV. Then a Go-Go essentially was the main guy being put over. So then I was back on board again. And I was like, all right, okay, well, you're just putting a Go-Go over, so that's fine. And then they were about to leave, and that's when it should have finished. And then the Young Guns came out, and then I was off the segment again. So I was on, then off, then on, then off. Then QT Marshall started heading towards the bus, and I was like, oh, Cody's going to return. And then I could see Cody in the doorway just lurching there like a weirdo, which made me laugh out loud. And then the 2 guys get up on top of the bus for no payoff. Besides the fact it's like, why is Cody even bothering with this feud? Like, because when he jumps out of the bus and starts beating on QT Marshall, you know, I know QT's cut a couple of promos and stuff, but it was like QT had tried to hit on Brandy or something. Like, why? You know what I mean? There was like, why does Cody, as far as a character is concerned, why does Cody care about this much? It doesn't make any sense to me. And then why did they go up on the top of the bus if someone wasn't thrown off it?
I haven't been on a emotional roller coaster like you with this storyline, but I do have one question. Would you like the Young Guns if they came out to Blaze of Glory by John Bon Jovi?
That's not fair. That's not fair, man, because you know my answer is going to be absolutely.
Like, that would be exceptionally cool, right?
And their catchphrase is "Smile, I'll make you famous," like Emilio Estevez in Young Guns. If they started dressing like Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez for Young Guns, and they came out to Blaze of Glory. Blaze of Glory was Young Guns 2, wasn't it?
I can't remember. Which one? Emilio played Billy the Kid, right?
Yeah. Emilio's in both. Like, Emilio and Keith Sutherland are in both. And I think Lou Diamond Phillips. But spoiler alert, for a 40-year-old film, Charlie Sheen doesn't make it to the sequel.
You are a big LDP guy.
LDP, I love him.
Yeah, like, get him back. Where's
LDP, DDP, OPP, all my faves.
That OPP, by the way, was the Office of Public Prosecutions, not
absolutely. I'm a very litigious person. Yeah, that segment. I overall, I thought this Dynamite was a bit meh.
Oh, really?
Against their own standards.
I think the first two matches,
like a 3.5, 3, a 3 or 3.5 out of 5 episode.
I think the Page versus Cage and the Cassidy versus Penta, I was 100% sure I knew the winners of both of those matches. And I did not. Like, it was awesome that, like, you know, it obviously means, okay, it looks like it's going to be Cage and Kenny in at Double or Nothing, and we're clearly going to save Page and Kenny for All In, which is cool, or All Out, or whatever the one they call. And then I just thought Penta would roll Cassidy, but like, it was awesome to see Orange win that match, and I'm really looking forward to the inevitable 3-way tag of Death Triangle versus Best Friends and Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, I like those guys feuding. The only thing I didn't really like is like I thought Penta should have won that match, and if Orange Cassidy was going to win, I don't want him winning by like hitting people with microphones. Like he's your baby. Like Orange Cassidy's a baby face. He's not a Stone Cold Steve Austin CM Punk anti-hero. You know, like I just didn't like that. I didn't like Trent and OC like conspiring to win, like to cheat to win. You know, like it jarred me a bit because I was the same as you. I was really enjoying it, and I was like, oh, I can't believe Orange Cassidy's going to win this. But then afterwards, I was like, oh, I don't know, like, because then Penta doesn't get the win, right? But then Orange Cassidy gets a win, but in a very kind of heelish way. I feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly critical, but it just felt like both guys didn't get anything out of this match, and they really should have.
I think because I thought the story was really good. Like, I think, you know, I forget the name of the guy, whatever the fellow's name, the Penta Says guy, who is the best thing on AEW TV. Alex introduced the microphone into the match. Penta used it to win last time. That expectation was subverted this time. I watched this with my 7-year-old daughter, and I never let her watch wrestling. And she is devoted to Orange Cassidy after this. She was like, we had to listen. We listened to Where Is My Mind by the Pixies yesterday because she's like, I want to listen to the Orange Cassidy song. Like, and she was just, just straight away. Like, she saw him and she was like, he's cool. He's so cool. And like, I couldn't believe that she was just having this connection with this guy in this way. And I thought she might be a bit like, because she hates cheating. And she was like, they tried to get him with the microphone, so he was just defending himself. It's fine.
Two wrongs don't make a right, Lily.
Would you?
Says the old man, fucking black and white kayfabe dude in the corner. It's just a small thing. But I love. I also think like I want Penta to be a bigger deal than he is. You know, and he's only going to get that by getting a few wins. You know, like anyway, I thought it was fun. The Bryan Cage thing that you mentioned, I could not believe. That floored me. Like, that was almost my favorite part of the whole show, is that match and the ending of it.
It was a shock. A genuine shock.
Yeah, but it shows that wins and losses mean something in AEW, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they've done a really good job of that because everyone's reaction was like, oh my God, fucking Hangman Page lost. This is a huge loss for him and a huge win for Bryan Cage. It just automatically puts Bryan Cage back in title contention, and it's very clever booking because it means that Hangman Page can drop down the rankings a bit, and he doesn't have to face Kenny straight away. You know, they don't have to deal with that storyline.
Well, I think it's good because it keeps, you know, baby faces are always better when they're overcoming odds rather than, you know, and a guy like Bryan Cage does sometimes need to win a big match, even though he's built like, you know, a muscle.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it worked really well. Like, Kenny versus Cage will be great. You know, they probably need to lean a little bit more into Cage as the face in that scenario. But they can do that. They've already laid the groundwork for that. You know, I'm excited to see that. But yeah, I was genuinely shocked. I think genuinely shocked.
Yeah, so was I. But
I was also the other shock that I think I had was that I was very, very skeptical about. I didn't think we needed a Chris Jericho face turn, and I didn't think it was going to work. And in my opinion, it's worked. Chris Jericho's a great face.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he is clearly a fucking lunatic in real life. There's just something about him that I can't hate him. I can't hate him.
Yeah. Yeah, he really is starting to lose it. That whole it's one of those things. I mean, we've kind of spoken about this a bit, especially with like MJF and Jericho, where like and MJF even talked about it in the promo where he's like, you got to hit a home run every time you come out here, otherwise you failed the company. And then it's like, in my head I was like, well, yeah, the same thing goes for you as well, man. Like, you two are basically the two outside of Kenny Omega, obviously you two guys are draws. And so every time they do something, there's this expectation of, like, for me anyway, of like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And it always is. It always is. There was a part of me that was like, when we kind of went down the line of all the promo, and all the promos were good, but there was a part of me like, oh, seriously, we're going to fucking, like, I was like, please don't. If they pass the fucking microphone to Jake, I'm out of here.
Yes.
Like, if we get fucking Wardlow and Jake Hager promos as well, like, not everyone has to fucking talk. And there was in my head, I was like, you got Tully Blanchard out there and he's not fucking cutting a promo, but we're just passing the microphone down the line. But anyway, they didn't do that. So as always with AEW, what you've come to expect as far as booking is concerned is never done. Because if this was in WWE, that's exactly what would happen. Every single person would have their shitty little promo for 30 seconds. But yeah, they're all great. And then it culminated with MJF, who was like, oh man, that's a pretty good promo. And then Jericho just fucking posterized him, dunked all over him. Have you seen how everyone's like marking out to Sean Spears' interview that he did last week, where he was like, I'm not going to say who, but there are people in this blood and guts match who genuinely don't like each other. And then every YouTube wrestling station is reporting it as real heat. They're like, come on, guys, seriously? Coming from a guy who gets worked real easy. I mean,
yeah, you took this as MJF to WWE confirmed or something.
Well, that's why I clicked on all the videos, because I was like, oh, fuck no, this is the last thing. I'm starting to barrack for AEW like a football team, It's like the last thing. I find myself saying things like we. Like, the last thing we need is for the Inner Circle to not like each other. Like, the last thing we need is for Sammy Guevara or MJF to show up on NXT.
I mean, those two would be all right. The real last thing we need is like the big acquisition being like, Santana and Ortiz. It would kill me to see them go to NXT and be big stars in the tag team division there, when it was like, they could have been big stars for you, AEW. They're so good. They're
big stars. They're going to be in an hour-long main event next week, man.
They're not big stars
pretty much the best tag team on earth.
Well, the Young Bucks are the best tag team on earth, at least according to the titles. But, AEW have not pushed Santana and Ortiz like they could have. And not that or the Butcher and the Blade. Like, if the Butcher and the Blade went to NXT and became, the biggest thing, I would potentially throw myself off a building. So what I'm trying to say is, I know how you feel. I feel too strongly.
God, we're such fucking marks. It's crazy. Oh, imagine if MJF went to NXT, I'd cry.
But like, MJF would be fine.
Santana Ortiz are tag team champions by the end of the year, I'll jump off a bridge.
Like, the thing is, though, like, MJF is bigger than NXT. Like, if he signed with WWE, there's no way he'd be signing to NXT. Like, he'd be going straight to the main roster. He'd be AJ Styles level. Like, he's just too big a star. He's been on...
Yeah, he's a fully formed star.
Yeah. Like, it would be insane for them to bother sending him to NXT. Not that would change anything, but, like, there's no way he would go unless he was going to the big roster, big show. Yeah. Because, like, why would you go to just a worse junior show? But, like, he'd be a big star. Well, actually, maybe he wouldn't be. Maybe he would be a
You never know.
mid-level. Yeah.
You never know with WWE. You don't know how Vince is going to fucking react to someone, and Vince might look at MJF and go, oh, "This is fucking old territories."
Is this Alberto Del Rio? But why?
You never know. You don't like. You just don't know who's going to be pushed and who isn't, and when and how, and it's that's why people get so upset with WWE, because it's all over the place, and there's no continuity of booking. And anyway, everyone keeps talking about, like, people are still talking about this blood and guts match next week like it's a blow off. It's not a blow off, guys. I don't know how more obvious they can be with the booking that this is not any kind of blow off at all whatsoever. Even to the point of, like, people talking about, like, who wins, who goes over. No one's going to win. I've never been more sure in my life that there will be some kind of even if one of the teams does win, it will end with Chris Jericho being crucified in some way by the Pinnacle. I've never been more certain of anything in wrestling in my life.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's just too good. It's too good to.
Why would they throw money away? Why? The only reason could be if Chris Jericho's like, I'm taking Fozzy out on the road, guys. That's the only reason that.
Yeah, that's true.
But even then, that doesn't mean that the feud stops. It means that Chris goes away for a while, and that even more reason why he would, like, get his head chopped off in a cage door or something.
So, what do you? I think the thing I thought this was a really good episode of Dynamite, and I thought the main event was a really good match, but also I wasn't particularly excited by it. Like, I watched it as, oh, look, this is technically a good match. There's no way in hell 10 is going to beat Darby Allin. No. But also, like, they really must think, like, Darby Allin must rate really well, must test really well. Like, they are putting him as, this guy is a superstar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the ratings did drop by about 350,000 this week.
Yeah, but Joe Biden was addressing, like, there was a presidential address against, like, that's a big deal in America. It's not like us where it was like, it's not like us where it's like the prime minister's going to talk on 7:30 and people are like,
cool, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, 7:30's ratings have dipped.
Yeah, I'll make sure I watch anything but that.
Yeah, where, like, they actually watch.
Oh God, Lee Sales talking to Scott Morrison. Fucking hell.
They're also dealing with a more extreme pandemic and a better vaccine rollout than we are. So,
unbelievable. Let's not talk about. I will get genuinely angry. Let's keep it upbeat for the podcast. I thought this was fine. I thought it was fine. I don't know if the TNT belt is doing. That's a dumb statement. I was going to say, I don't think the TNT belt's doing anything with Darby Allin. It is. I just, there's a few things that I don't quite understand about this match, right? It's like pulling out, I know this has kind of been Ten's storyline of, like, he was very close with, oh my God, I'm completely blanking on the Exalted One. Matt, help.
Brody Lee. Fuck
me. Sorry, guys. That's really poor. But I was kind of surprised that they pulled out that for this match, of, like, Brody saw a lot of me. I was his chosen one. It's like, oh, okay, great. Well, you're about to lose to Darby Allin, so I don't know why that's being brought up, unless there was I mean, I think there'll be some payoff to that eventually. I hope it's not just a one and done thing where it was used for no apparent reason. And the other thing as well is, I don't get Darby Allin and Sting as a duo. I don't, like, the longer it goes on, the more I'm like, I'm confused. Why are these two, like, they're meant to be lone soldiers, right? Why are they? There was a reason why they teamed up initially against Team Taz. Now they're just hanging out like a father-son thing.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
And also, like, Ethan Page interfering during the match when they were going to come out and beat down after the match didn't make a huge amount of sense to me either. Like, just leave it till the end.
Are we going to get? So I'm assuming our double or nothing Derby match is Ethan Page Derby, or
Yeah,
maybe
supposedly they had amazing matches on the Indies back in the day, where people were genuinely worried about their not just health, but whether they were going to live through the matches that they had. So
excellent.
that's something to look forward to. I want to
Yeah,
see more. I want to see more of that from that's the Darby Allin that I want to say. Obviously, he can't do that every week, but I don't know if Darby Allin needs a title, and I think that title needs someone else
Oh, I think he's pretty good. I
to
like. I
take it
quite
off him.
like him as like. I think it's at the moment while he's not on a big storyline. I don't mind Darby Allin's story being he defends this every week and he's has these great matches, which he does. We probably need to move away from the matches being against the various members of the Dark Order.
Yeah.
But like they've got such a deep roster. Like chuck on someone like they. Sometimes they like who was that guy Drake something, the fat guy, the English guy that they had a few weeks ago. Like that was exceptionally strange. This just random fat English man.
Oh, yeah.
Like why
I
not
can't
chuck
remember his
Brian
name right now.
Pillman Jr. there or whoever Luchasaurus? We haven't seen Luchasaurus in a singles
Yeah,
match. Like just chuck someone interesting in there. Like let's just see what happens.
yeah. The Butcher.
Oh please.
Someone who just looks interesting,
Mm.
And someone that everyone loves, but it doesn't really matter if they lose because they're not in the title picture or anything like that.
And why
I
not chuck in a 3-way dance every so? Like, why not have different kinds of matches?
yeah, yeah. I think that's maybe this is my attention span more than anything, but it's kind of been the same thing every week for the last 5 to 6 weeks. So there's a part of me that's like, I get that this is what this belt is for, but I'm not super excited when it's like Darby Allin wrestles someone next week. That doesn't blow my socks off at the moment. Which I know that pits me against almost every other AEW fan on earth, but it's just I don't know. I want to preface this by saying like I'm comparing this to the standards of AEW. I'm not comparing this to Raw or anything. Like, I'm not saying like this is terrible in comparison to Raw. It's not. I'm just saying like in comparison to other Dynamite episodes that I've appreciated more. I just thought this was a bit. I was still giving it 3.5 out of 5. It's still a C plus B minus show. There were just a few things like the Orange Cassidy, the way that Orange Cassidy match, I was a bit like, although now that you've explained your side of it, I've kind of come around to it a bit. I thought the John Moxley Eddie Kingston thing with Kenny was a bit weird. What did you think of that?
I'm just looking like I enjoy watching them, so it's okay. But if it was anyone else, I would be deeply disinterested. I'm not enjoying Kenny that much at the moment, to be honest.
Oh, really? I thought it was great in the promo in the limousine. But I think that was more just like, have they listened to me about not getting Matt Jackson on the microphone? Yes, they have. Okay, good. Only let Don and Kenny talk. And if you must, one of the Good Brothers. But the Young Bucks must not talk at all. But when they came out and Eddie Kingston was like, I'm not doing this sports entertainment bullshit, I was like, oh, cool. And then they did a very sports entertainment promo. Yes. Don't you reckon?
Yeah. I'm just not in there yet with them. But
yeah, and I just like Eddie and John need to be doing the opposite of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because they're so believable. So maybe that's why they think that you can get away with them doing promos like this because they're both very believable. But and then also like I would have reversed the roles of having Don Callis with the chair around his ankle and then forcing Kenny to choose.
That is also a fair point, yeah.
To do something, you know what I mean? Although Kenny probably would have been like, do whatever you want to Don Callis. So it probably makes sense. But then they're like, because Don Callis says, you can have anything you want. And then John and Eddie go, we want a match against Nakazawa and Kenny Omega. Wouldn't it make more sense to have like a handicap match or get Don Callis in the ring for 2 minutes or something? Like, I just felt like there were a lot of different ways that you could have gone with that, and it was just a bit meh.
Yeah. I agree.
But something I was super keen on, and I was like, I can't, like, besides the format change, I was so excited to talk to you about this. How much did you enjoy Miro kicking the shit out of Kip Sabian for 1.5 minutes on TV?
I enjoyed it quite a lot. It was nice to see that Miro. It made me confused as to why they bothered doing the other Miro. But it made me feel really good because it's like every time you don't trust AEW, they pretty much pull they pull the nose up every time.
Every goddamn time. It's almost pointless doing the podcast because they remind you what I mean. It's like, well, I don't understand why they're doing this. This makes no sense. And then you have to come on the podcast the next week and be like, Tony, I'm sorry. I doubted you. You were, I just don't quite understand how they did that the arm in the door spot without legitimately breaking Kip's arm.
That would, I forgot about that until right now. It looked like they were, what the fuck?
It looked 100% legit. And then Miro like cradling him and saying, I forgive you, like a total psychopath. I literally punched the air like a psycho on my own in my lounge room. It was like, because this is the Miro we want to see, right?
As we are very clear about, wrestling is something to be watched alone.
You can't watch it with anyone else.
It's just it's not for sharing.
No, you have to create your own podcast so you can talk to your mate about it each week. But overall, look, man, I really enjoyed it. What I did enjoy, because we've changed the format, I wasn't taking like really detailed notes. And it was nice to just like watch an episode for the first time in a year, I
agree. I mean, I don't take detailed notes anyway, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing what I always do.
Yeah. Can I just say you're looking a little CM Punk at the moment?
That's a really nice thing to say. Or do you saying that I would look like I'd be beaten up if I ever entered a real combat sport?
This is essentially, this would be like if you'd sent me a demo and I was like, oh, it sounds like the Beatles. Like, it's the highest of compliments I can give.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you were very nice to me yesterday. So, now we're 1-1.
All right.
That's not why I'm saying it, by the way. This is a weird conversation to have on the podcast.
Yep.
We've hit an hour. I reckon I think that we did that perfectly, man. Oh, we still on? All right, let's do let's do the outro. I'm being a dickhead. I know we're still on. Thank you for your support, guys. We just continuously have people downloading every day. It's really weird, especially since we've moved across to Captivate FM. Our audience has, I don't even know what percentage it is, but it's huge compared to where it was. So the best way that you can support us is just by telling a friend. Just say, hey, look, there's this show, WrestleWolf. They do a weekly podcast where they just chat about wrestling. And then they've got a whole bunch of they have in-depth looks into WCW, ECW. We've got a few other things in the fire that we're talking about, maybe a TNA series, maybe. I know Matt's very keen to do TNA because I've never watched any of it. And I think that would be a pretty fun series to do. But anyway.
I agree.
Just tell your friends. You can follow us on socials, share it on socials, tell your friends about it. That's the best way you can help us. But until next time, brother friends, Pepe is dead.